I never imagined that at 72 years old, I would be hiding in my own bedroom, shaking with shock, holding my son Michael's cell phone that he had left on the living room table. The message I read hit me like a lightning bolt. "Relax, babe. I will put the old lady in the nursing home, so we will have the house free, and her money too." I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling the world collapsing around me. It was a conversation between Michael and Linda, my daughter-in-law, coldly planning my future, as if I were an old piece of furniture that needed to be discarded. 4 years after the passing of my dear husband Robert, I had opened my home and my heart to them, believing I was helping my family. Michael had gone months without finding a steady job, and I was not going to leave him without a home while they got back on their feet. How foolish I was to think that gratitude still existed in this world. Tears rolled down my face as I remembered all the sacrifices I had made. I worked for 40 years as a teacher at Lincoln Elementary, educating entire generations. I raised Michael practically alone during Robert's last years when he was sick and could not work, always putting family first. Now I discovered that my own son saw me only as an obstacle between him and my assets. The noise of the front door brought me back to reality. They were arriving, and I would need to pretend that nothing had happened, but one thing I knew for sure. Something inside me had changed forever in that moment, and they had no idea what was coming. For years since Robert passed away, I had gotten used to the quiet routine of my house in the suburbs, a house we had bought together after decades of saving, where we raised Michael, where we built our dreams. Every corner held precious memories. The kitchen where Robert helped me prepare dinner on Thanksgiving, the living room where Michael took his first steps, the little back garden where we planted the roses together that still bloom every spring. When Michael arrived with Linda and my grandson Jason 8 months ago, telling me they had lost their apartment downtown due to financial problems, I did not hesitate for a second to open the doors to them. "Mom, it will only be for a few months until I stabilize," he had said with tears in his eyes. "I swear that as soon as I get a job, we will leave and leave you in peace." How ironic that he had used exactly those words, "leave you in peace." The first few days were difficult for everyone. The house, which for 4 years had been my silent refuge, was suddenly filled with voices, with the television at full volume, with music I did not understand. Linda reorganized my entire kitchen to make it more functional. Jason took over the guest room that I had turned into my little sewing studio, and Michael installed himself in the master bedroom, arguing that he needed space for his job interviews via video call. At first, I tried to adapt. After all, they were my family, and a mother always finds a way to make room for her children. I let Linda change the furniture in the place, let her put up her own curtains, let her fill the pantry with products I had never bought. I accepted that Jason played his loud music at volumes that hurt my ears. I resigned myself to Michael monopolizing the living room television with his news and sports programs that did not interest me at all. But what hurt me the most was the way they treated me, not as the owner of the house who had received them generously, but as a guest who was in the way in her own home. Linda spoke to me with that exaggerated patience one uses with small children. "Emily, you better go rest. I will handle the kitchen. Emily, do not worry about cleaning. You are too old for those things. Emily, do not. You think it is time for you to take your pills." Michael, for his part, had developed an even more painful habit. He ignored me completely. He would arrive from his supposed job interviews, serve himself the food I had prepared, sit in front of the television, and act as if I were invisible. When I tried to ask him about his day, he answered me with one-word answers. When I tried to talk to him about neighborhood news or a memory of his dad, he would interrupt me saying he was too tired for conversations. Jason, my 18-year-old grandson, was perhaps the one who hurt me the most with his indifference. That little boy who used to run around my house during the holidays, who asked me to tell him stories before sleeping, who helped me water the plants in the garden, now did not even look at me when I spoke to him. He lived glued to his phone with headphones on 24 hours a day, responding to my attempts at conversation with grunts or gestures of annoyance. The economic situation also began to worry me. Michael had promised to contribute to the household expenses as soon as he found work. But months passed, and not only did he contribute nothing, but the expenses had tripled. The electric bill skyrocketed due to the constant use of air conditioning in all the bedrooms. The water bill went up because of the eternal showers Linda and Jason took. The pantry emptied in days due to the constant cravings of my daughter-in-law, who had expensive and specific tastes. When I tried to speak about the subject delicately, Linda got terribly upset. "Emily, it is not fair for you to charge us for living here when we are family. Besides, you live alone. You would have these expenses anyway." Michael completely supported his wife. "Mom, do not be dramatic. When I was a boy, you never charged me for food or electricity. It was impossible to make them understand that the situation was completely different. But what really began to break me inside were the small, daily disrespects. Linda had started receiving her friends in my living room, talking about me as if I were not present. Poor Emily, she is getting very forgetful. Yesterday she put salt in her coffee instead of sugar. Oh, it is just that at this age they cannot live alone anymore. They need constant supervision. Her friends looked at me with that fake pity reserved for the elderly who are a burden. Michael had developed the habit of answering for me when someone asked me direct questions. If the butcher at the corner asked me how I was, Michael would jump in. "My mom is doing very well, but you know how older people are. Sometimes they get a little confused." If my neighbor Mrs. Higgins greeted me in the mornings, Michael would interrupt. "Excuse my mom. Sometimes she does not hear well. The straw that broke the camel's back came 2 weeks ago. Linda had organized a meeting for the parent committee of Jason's school in my living room without consulting me. I had planned a quiet afternoon watching my shows when suddenly 8 unknown women arrived invading my space. When I tried to retreat to my bedroom to give them privacy, Linda stopped me. "No, Emily, stay. After all, this is also a family meeting." During the whole meeting, those women talked about me in the third person as if I were deaf or stupid. Does the lady not have other children who can help? Have you thought about a caregiver? My mother-in-law is also getting very difficult, but we found a lovely nursing home on the other side of the city. Linda participated actively in the conversation. It is just very difficult to care for an older person. It requires a lot of patience and dedication. Michael nodded gravely, as if talking about my future was a heavy burden he was bearing heroically. That night, I cried myself to sleep. For the first time in months, I allowed my tears to flow freely. I cried for Robert, who never would have allowed them to treat me like this. I cried for the mother who had always been selfless, always willing to sacrifice for her son's well-being. I cried for the strong and independent woman I had been for decades and who was now treated like a useless burden. But it was this morning when everything changed definitely. Michael had gotten up early for another one of his job interviews, and in his rush, he had forgotten his cell phone on the dining room table. The device rang several times while I ate breakfast alone, as had been my custom for the last few months. At first I tried to ignore it, but the messages kept arriving with that insistence that suggests urgency. When I saw there were more than 10 unread messages, I decided to take it to his bedroom. Linda was still asleep, she never got up before 11, and Jason had left very early for high school. While I climbed the stairs with the phone in my hand, the screen lit up automatically showing the most recent conversation. "Did you speak with the guy from the nursing home? Was the message topping the list?" My heart stopped. With trembling fingers, I opened the complete conversation between Michael and Linda from the night before. "Linda, did you talk to the guy from the nursing home my mom recommended, Michael?" "Yes, I went to see it yesterday. It is perfect. It has gardens, nurses 24 hours activities to keep her entertained. Linda, and the price Michael $12,000 a month with her pension money and some of the savings she must have, it pays for itself. Linda, perfect. When do we tell her, Michael? Not yet. First, I need her to sign some papers to have access to her accounts just in case. Linda, do you think she suspects anything, Michael? Not at all. She is so focused on pleasing us that she does not notice anything. Poor little thing. Linda, relax, babe. I will put the old lady in the nursing home. That way we will have the house free and her money too. Michael, I love you. You are the smartest woman I know." I read the messages 3 times before my brain could process them completely. It was not just that they wanted to get rid of me. They had been planning this for weeks, researching options, calculating costs, organizing my future without including me in absolutely any decision. And worst of all, they spoke of my savings and my money as if it were already theirs. I sat on the first step, I found feeling my legs would not respond. 48 years of marriage, 72 years of life, 4 decades of honest work. And this was how my history ended, being discarded by my own blood like an old piece of furniture that was no longer useful. In that moment, something broke inside me, but it was not my spirit. It was the last trace of the selfless and compliant mother I had been for so many years. It was the illusion that family love was unconditional. It was the belief that sacrificing for children guaranteed their gratitude and respect. But something new was also born, a cold and determined clarity I had never felt in my life, a certainty that this story was not going to end how they had planned it. A deep conviction that Emily Miller was not going to be a victim of anyone, not even her own son. I went down the stairs with firm steps, left the cell phone exactly where Michael had forgotten it, and poured myself a second cup of coffee. But this time, it was not the coffee of the resigned and complacent grandmother. It was the coffee of a woman who had just woken up after months of emotional lethargy. While I drank my coffee slowly, I contemplated my kitchen with completely new eyes. This house had been bought with my work and Robert's work. Every dollar invested in it had come from our paychecks as teachers. Every improvement, every repair, every piece of furniture had been paid for with our joint effort. And now, my son and his wife planned to keep it as if it were their natural inheritance. I remembered my mother's words, "Rest in peace." Emily, honey, in this life, you teach people how to treat you. If you allow them to disrespect you, once they will do it always. It had taken me 72 years to completely understand the wisdom of those words. The sound of keys in the lock announced Michael's return. He entered whistling clearly, in a good mood, probably because he believed his plan was advancing without setbacks. He looked at me, barely briefly. "Good morning, Mom." "Did you have breakfast?" "Good morning, son." "Yes, I ate very well," I replied with the most normal voice I could manage. "Perfect. Hey, have you seen my cell phone? I think I forgot it here. It is on the dining room table where you left it." "Thanks, Mom." He headed over there with no further interest in conversing with me as always. But this time, while I watched him walk away, I did not feel the usual sadness for his indifference. I felt something completely different. I felt the silent power of one who knows the whole truth while the enemy believes his secret is safe. Michael had not the slightest idea that his mother had seen behind the mask. He did not know that his plans had been discovered. He did not imagine that the poor old lady he thought he could manipulate easily had just become his worst nightmare. I finished my coffee, calmly washed my cup, and went up to my bedroom. I had many things to plan, many decisions to make, many surprises to prepare, but for the first time in months, I felt completely in control of my own destiny. The war was just beginning, but Emily Miller had 72 years of experience, a house in her name savings that no one knew completely, and an iron determination she had inherited from generations of strong women. Michael and Linda had made the mistake of completely underestimating their opponent. I smiled for the first time in many weeks. This was going to be very interesting. The following days were a painful but necessary revelation. With the truth burning in my chest like a silent ember, I began to observe every gesture, every word, every look from Michael and Linda with a clarity I had never had. It was as if for months I had been viewing my own life through foggy glass, and suddenly someone had cleaned it completely. The first sign arrived that same afternoon when Linda returned from her manicure session, paid for, of course, with the money I gave her for urgent household expenses. She found me preparing food in the kitchen and spoke to me with that sweet and worried voice that I now recognized as completely fake. "Emily, do you feel okay? I see you are a little distracted today. I am perfectly fine. Linda, just thinking about some things. It is just that sometimes people your age get a little melancholic without apparent reason. My mom says it is normal, that it is part of the aging process." There it was again, that subtle way of planting the idea that my age was synonymous with mental confusion. Before those words would have made me doubt myself, would have filled me with insecurity. Now I recognize them for what they really were, the preparation of the ground to justify her plan. "Your mom must know a lot about those subjects," I replied with a smile that I hoped looked innocent. "Does she also care for older people?" "Well, not exactly, but she has researched a lot on the topic. She says there are very good specialized places where older people can have a better quality of life." "How interesting. And are those places expensive?" "Not at all, Emily. In fact, many times they come out cheaper than maintaining a big house like this. Besides, older people need specialized company activities suitable for their age, constant medical care." Every word was one more piece of the puzzle that I had already begun to put together in my mind. It was no coincidence that Linda was planting these ideas now. It was part of a carefully orchestrated campaign to convince me that a nursing home was the best option for everyone, mainly for them. That night during dinner, I observed my family with completely new eyes. Michael ate in silence, constantly checking his cell phone, with that satisfied smile of someone who believes his plans are going smoothly. Jason chewed with headphones on, completely oblivious to any family conversation. Linda chatted animatedly about afternoon soap operas, but I noticed how her eyes studied me constantly, as if looking for signs of mental deterioration she could report later. "Jason, take off your headphones during dinner," I asked him with a firm voice. My grandson looked at me as if I had said something completely absurd. "Why, Grandma? I am not bothering anyone. Because we are eating as a family and I would like to talk with you." Linda stepped in immediately. "Emily, leave him be. Young people today are like that. He does not like being pressured. I am not pressuring him. I am asking for a minimum of courtesy at my table." Michael looked up from his phone, clearly annoyed by the interruption. "Mom, do not make drama over nonsense. Jason is eating right. That is what is important. For me, it is not nonsense that my grandson cannot disconnect from his music, not even during dinner." "Oh," Emily sighed. "Linda, it is just that you do not understand how boys are nowadays. They are different from those of your time." There it was again. That constant reminder that I belonged to another era, that my opinions were outdated, that my perspective no longer had validity in the modern world. Before, those words would have made me feel ashamed, obsolete. Now I saw them as what they really were, a strategy to delegitimize my authority in my own house. "You are right, Linda. I am from another time, a time when elders were respected and family time was valued." Michael let out a sarcastic little laugh. "Mom, do not dramatize. Nobody is disrespecting you." "Oh, really? Then explain to me why my grandson cannot take off his headphones when his grandmother speaks to him. Because it is not a big deal, it is a generational thing, I see." "And what other things are generational, Michael?" "The fact that no one consults me before changing the decoration of my house, that Linda invites her friends without asking me, that you make decisions about my life as if I were a little girl." The silence that followed my words was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Michael and Linda exchanged a quick look. That complicit look that I now knew meant the old lady is getting difficult. Emily said Michael, using my name instead of Mom, another tactic he had started using lately. "No one is making decisions about your life. We are just trying to make living together easier for everyone." "Easier for everyone, or easier for you?" Linda cleared her throat. "Emily, I think you are misunderstanding things. We love you very much and only want the best for you. And you believe you know better than I do what is best for me. It is just that sometimes older people do not realize certain things intervened." Jason finally taking off one headphone, but with a face of total annoyance. "My psychology teacher says it is normal for grandparents to get kind of paranoid." The word paranoid fell on my ears like a frozen slap. There it was, pronounced by my own grandson, the seed of doubt about my mental stability. It was not a coincidence. Someone had put that idea in his head. "Paranoid. Did you learn that word at school, or did someone else teach it to you?" Jason turned red as a tomato. "Nobody taught me anything. It is just that you lately are very, I do not know, suspicious. Suspicious for noticing that you talk about me as if I were not present. Suspicious for realizing that you make decisions about my house without consulting me." Michael hit the table with the palm of his hand. "Enough. Mom, I do not know what got into you today, but you are exaggerating everything. Exaggerating. Tell me, Michael, when was the last time you asked me how I feel? When was the last time you included me in an important decision about this house? When was the last time you treated me like the owner of this place, instead of like an annoying guest? Linda tried to soften the atmosphere. Emily, of course we respect you. It is just that sometimes one assumes things because we are family. Exactly, Linda. You assume. You assume you can use my house as if it were yours. You assume you can make decisions without consulting me. You assume that because I am older, I no longer have a voice or vote in my own life. I got up from the table, leaving my plate half-eaten. Finish dinner in peace. I am going to my room. While I went up the stairs, I heard the murmur of restless voices in the dining room. I knew they were analyzing every one of my words, worried because their submissive victim was beginning to show signs of rebellion. What they did not know was that this was barely the beginning. In my bedroom, I sat at the small desk where I used to correct exams when I was a teacher and took out the photo album I kept in the bottom drawer. The first pages showed my wedding with Robert at St. Joseph's Parish 48 years ago. How young I looked in those photos, how hopeful, how full of dreams about the future we would build together. I turned the pages slowly, reliving every stage of our lives. The day we bought this house, a small miracle after years saving every dollar. The birth of Michael, the most beautiful baby in the world, according to my eyes as a new mother. His first steps in the living room of this same house. His first day of school when I cried more than he did. His high school graduation when Robert and I felt like the proudest parents in the world. At what moment had everything broken? When had Michael started seeing me as a burden instead of as the mother who had sacrificed everything for him? I remembered the nights I spent awake when he had a fever as a child. The early mornings I got up to make him breakfast all through middle school. The years I worked double shifts to pay for his university. The Sundays I sacrificed to help him with his homework when he was studying his career. And then Linda arrived. At first I had been so excited to have a daughter-in-law. I thought it would be like having the daughter I never could have. How wrong I was. From the first day, Linda had seen me as competition for Michael's affection and had worked systematically to distance me from my son. First, it was seemingly innocent comments. Michael, you are not a child anymore for your mom to be pampering you so much. Then came the suggestions about family traditions. Do not you think it would be better to have Christmas dinner at a restaurant instead of your mom getting tired cooking? And finally, the subtle but constant campaign to make me feel that my customs were outdated, that my presence was unnecessary, that my opinion did not matter. Robert had been my shield against all that. My husband had the ability to keep Linda at bay without direct confrontations, but with a firmness she respected. When he died, I was left completely vulnerable to her manipulations. Without realizing it, I had allowed them to corner me little by little until I became a stranger in my own house. A soft knock on the door interrupted my memories. "Can I come in?" It was Michael's voice with a conciliatory tone I had not heard in months. "Come in." He entered with the face of a scolded child and sat on the edge of my bed. "Mom, I come to apologize. I think we all got a little upset during dinner." "We all got upset? Or only I got upset?" "Well, maybe you were right about some things. Sometimes we do not realize that we can be a little inconsiderate." I looked him directly in the eyes, searching for some trace of the sincerity that used to characterize my son. "Inconsiderate in what sense, Michael? Well, in not consulting you on some decisions about the house, in taking for granted that you agree with everything. And what are you going to do to change that?" He shifted uncomfortably on the bed. "We'll try to include you more in important decisions. Like which ones? Like, I do not know if we want to change something about the decoration, or if we are going to have visitors, or if you are thinking of moving me to a nursing home." The question left my lips before I could stop it. Michael turned pale as a sheet and began to stutter. "Where did you get that idea? No one has talked about any nursing home. Are you sure?" "Of course I am sure." "Who put that idea in your head?" His acting was so bad it was pitiful. The surprise on his face was completely fake, but the guilt I tried to hide was real as a slap. "No one put anything in my head, Michael. It is just a natural worry for people my age." "Well, you can be calm. Linda and I would never do something like that. This is your house and your place is here with us. I am very glad to hear that. Are you not mad at me anymore? I am not mad, son. I am just reflecting on many things. He kissed my forehead with that gesture that used to melt my heart when he was a boy. I love you, Mom. I know sometimes I do not show it like I should, but you are the most important thing I have in this world. When he left my room, I remained seated in the same position for several minutes. Michael's words of love had sounded rehearsed, as if he had been preparing that speech, but the most revealing thing had been his reaction when I mentioned the nursing home. The fear in his eyes had been genuine fear that I had discovered his plan. The following days were a fascinating play. Both Michael and Linda began to behave in an exaggeratedly attentive way with me. They asked me constantly if I needed anything. They included me in trivial conversations. They asked my opinion on unimportant things. It was as if they had received instructions to be more affectionate to avoid me suspecting their true intentions. Linda, in particular, had developed a new personality. Suddenly, she was interested in my emotional well-being. Emily, how did you sleep last night? Do not you feel lonely during the afternoons? Would not you like to have more company of people your age? Every seemingly innocent question was, in reality, a probe to evaluate my willingness to consider housing alternatives. Jason had also received instructions. He began to seek me out for forced conversations about school, about his plans for the future, about memories from when he was little, but his efforts were so obvious and artificial, they were laughable. The boy who for months had been incapable of directing more than 2 words in a row to me suddenly wanted to spend time with his grandmother. "Hey, Grandma, can I ask you a question?" "Of course, Jason. Tell me, do you not feel lonely living in this house so big?" There it was. The question I had been waiting for days. The seed planted by his parents so that I myself would arrive at the conclusion that I needed a change of housing. "Sometimes I do feel a little lonely," I admitted, "but since you all arrived, the house is full of life." "Yes, but would it not be more fun to be with people your age?" "My friend Robert says his grandmother is super happy in a place where only grandparents live. They play bingo, make crafts, talk about their things." "And what is the name of that place where Robert's grandmother is?" "I do not know, but he says it is very nice. It has gardens and everything." "How interesting. And does Robert go visit his grandmother a lot?" Jason lowered his gaze, clearly uncomfortable. "Well, not that much. He says he is very busy with school." "I see. So the grandmother is very happy, but her grandson does not have time to visit her. It is not that he does not have time. It is that grandparents there have their own activities and do not need to be visited so much." Poor Jason. It was obvious he was repeating a speech he had memorized probably after several coaching sessions by his parents. The clumsiness of his arguments was almost touching. "I understand. And what do your parents think of those places?" "Well, they say they could be a good option for when grandparents need more specialized care." "Specialized care? Like what I do not know. Medical things, memory exercises, that type of stuff." Every answer from Jason confirmed to me that his parents had been working on him, so he would prepare me psychologically for the idea of the nursing home. The strategy was intelligent. Use my own grandson as a messenger to make me believe the idea came from him, not them. "Jason, do you think I need specialized care?" "No, Grandma. You are very well. I just say that well. When one gets older, what? Well, sometimes one needs more help. And do you believe I need more help than I receive here in my house?" The poor boy was sweating. It was obvious he had not expected me to ask such direct questions. "I do not know, Grandma. I was just talking." "It is okay, my grandson. Thank you for worrying about me." That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, I went down to the kitchen for a glass of water and found a surprise. Michael and Linda were in the living room, whispering urgently. I hid behind the door that connects the kitchen with the dining room and could hear fragments of their conversation. "It is not working. She is getting more suspicious every day. Maybe we should speed up the process. Are you crazy? If we pressure her too much, she is going to realize everything. But we cannot wait forever either. My mom says that—" "Your mom does not understand the situation. Emily is not like other old ladies. She is smarter than we thought. So what do you suggest?" "We need to be more subtle." more patient, win her confidence completely before making the final move. And meanwhile, what? This house is in her name. If something happens to her, nothing is going to happen. We just need her to sign some papers so I have legal power over her medical and financial decisions. And how are you going to convince her of that? I'm going to tell her it is for precaution, that in case she gets sick, I can make rapid decisions without legal complications. Do you think she will accept? If we pitch it right, yes. The key is to make her feel it is her idea, that it is an intelligent decision on her part. My heart beat so fast, I feared they could hear it from the living room. Not only did they plan to put me in a nursing home, they wanted me to give them legal power over my life before doing it. It was much worse than I had imagined. I returned to my room without making noise, but sleep did not come all night. I stayed awake until dawn, planning my next move. I could no longer keep pretending I knew nothing. It was time to take control of the situation before it was too late. The next morning during breakfast, Michael brought up the subject as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Mom, I was thinking about something important we should do." "What thing, son? We should organize your legal papers, better get powers of attorney, wills, that type of thing." "What for?" "For precaution. So that if something happens to you, which is not going to happen, but one never knows, I can take quick decisions without legal complications." "What type of decisions?" "Well, medical mainly. If you were in the hospital and could not decide on a treatment, I would have authority to do so." "I see. And financial decisions, too, only the necessary ones to pay medical bills or things like that." "Nothing more." Linda nodded vigorously. "It is very smart to have everything organized beforehand, Emily. My mom did the same with my dad and saved us many problems when he got sick." "Your dad got sick?" "Yes. Alzheimer's. It was very difficult because at first we did not have the papers in order and could not take decisions for him." "How terrible." "And now, how is he?" "He died 2 years ago," she replied with tears in her eyes that seemed genuine. "I am so sorry, Linda. I did not know. That is why I understand the importance of having everything prepared. One never knows what can happen." The acting was perfect. They had built a moving story to convince me that signing the powers was an intelligent and foresighted decision on my part. If I had not heard their conversation from the night before, I probably would have fallen into their trap. "You are right, Michael. It is important to have everything in order." Their faces lit up immediately. "Do you want us to go to the notary this week?" "Yes. It seems like an excellent idea to me, but first, I want to consult with my own lawyer." The smile froze on his face. "Your own lawyer? What for? I can handle all this." "I know, son, but I prefer to have a second opinion. It is a lot of money and many responsibilities. I want to be completely sure of what I am signing." Linda intervened quickly. "Emily, lawyers are very expensive. Why spend money unnecessarily? I am not worried about the expense. I prefer to be sure." Michael and Linda exchanged that complicit look that I already knew so well. "It is okay, Mom. Whatever you want." "Do you know any good lawyer I will investigate? Surely Mrs. Higgins, my neighbor, can recommend someone." What I did not tell them is that I already had perfectly clear who I was going to consult. And it was not just about powers of attorney. Emily Miller was about to counterattack. The decision came with the clarity of a sunrise after the darkest storm. It was Monday morning when Michael left early for another of his supposed job interviews, which I now knew were meetings to accelerate my internment, and Linda went to the market with Jason. For the first time in months, I had the house completely to myself. I headed to the living room phone and dialed the number I had been keeping in my mind for days. Mrs. Higgins, my neighbor of a lifetime, answered on the second ring. "Emily, what a pleasure to hear you. How are you, dear?" "Mrs. Higgins, I need to ask you something very important. Do you remember the lawyer who helped you when you had problems with your sister's inheritance?" "Of course, Mr. Davis. Why do you have a legal problem? Let's say I want to be prepared for any eventuality. Could you give me his phone number?" "Of course. But Emily, are you okay?" "You sound worried." "I am perfectly fine, Mrs. Higgins. I just want to put my affairs in order." "Emily Miller, we have known each other for 30 years. I know when something worries you. Is your son causing problems?" The question took me by surprise. Mrs. Higgins had always been very perceptive, but I did not expect she had noticed the tensions in my house. Why do you ask that? Because I have seen how things have changed since he arrived with his family. Before you went out every afternoon to water your plants, we talked in the garden. You looked calm. Now you almost do not go out, and when you do, you seem, I do not know, like scared. Her words moved me deeply. For months, I had felt invisible, as if no one noticed my suffering. Knowing that at least one person had realized my situation gave me strength to continue. Mrs. Higgins, you are right. I need your help. Tell me what I can do. First, give me the lawyer's phone number. Second, could you come over this afternoon around 4? I need you to be a witness to a conversation I am going to have. Of course, do you want to tell me what it is about? When you come, I will explain everything. For now, I just need to know I count on you. You have always been able to count on me, Emily. Always. After hanging up, I immediately dialed Mr. Davis's number. His secretary gave me an appointment for that same afternoon at 2. It was perfect. I would have time to handle legal matters and return before Mrs. Higgins arrived for the second part of my plan. While I got ready to go out, I looked at myself in the vanity mirror Robert had given me on our 10th anniversary. The woman who returned the gaze was no longer the scared victim from a week ago. She had brighter eyes, a straighter back, a firmer jaw. It was as if I had woken up from a long and confusing dream to find myself again. Mr. Davis's office was in downtown Chicago in a restored historic building that reminded me of times when Robert and I went downtown on Saturday afternoons. The lawyer was a man of about 50 with gray hair and a kind smile that reassured me immediately. Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Higgins spoke wonders of you. Tell me, how can I help you, Mr. Davis? I need to protect my assets from my own family. If my statement surprised him, he did not show it. He simply nodded and took out a notebook. Tell me exactly what is happening. During the next hour, I related everything from the beginning. The message on Michael's cell phone, the conversations, I had heard the manipulation attempts, the campaign to make me sign powers of attorney. The lawyer took notes constantly, asking specific questions that showed he understood perfectly the gravity of the situation, Mrs. Miller. What you described to me is a classic case of financial abuse toward the elderly by relatives. Unfortunately, it is more common than people think. What options do I have? Several. First, we can draft a will that clearly specifies the destination of your assets. Second, we can establish a trust that protects your estate. Third, we can prepare very specific powers of attorney that give you absolute control over who can take decisions in your name and under what circumstances. And if I already signed something without realizing it, any power of attorney can be revoked at any moment while you are in full use of your mental faculties, which clearly you are. How much time do you need to prepare all this? If it is urgent, I can have the documents ready for tomorrow, but I need you to come with 2 witnesses who are not your relatives. Perfect. Can I bring my neighbor and maybe another neighbor? Ideal. One more thing, Mrs. Miller. Have you considered what you are going to do regarding the immediate situation in your house? I have a plan. The lawyer smiled. I imagine so. I just want to ensure you understand that once you take these legal measures, there is no turning back. Your family is going to realize that you know everything. Mr. Davis, there is no turning back anyway. They made that decision for me. On the way back home, I stopped at the bank, where I had managed my accounts for more than 20 years. I explained the situation to the manager, Mrs. Rodriguez, who also knew me for years. Mrs. Miller, what a terrible situation. What do you need us to do? I want to open a new account at a different branch and transfer the majority of my savings there. I also want to change the beneficiaries of all my existing accounts. Does your son have access to any of your current accounts? Not directly, but he knows all my account numbers because he has been helping me with some payments. Then it is definitely a good idea to make these changes. Do you want us to schedule the transfers for tomorrow? Yes, please. And Mrs. Rodriguez, I need this to remain completely confidential. Of course, Mrs. Miller, I understand perfectly. I arrived home at 3:30. Michael had not returned yet, but Linda was in the kitchen preparing food. She greeted me with that fake smile I had already learned to recognize. Emily, How did your errands go? Very well. Thanks, Linda. Could you do me a favor? My neighbor, Mrs. Higgins, is coming around 4 to talk with me. Would you mind giving us a little privacy? Not at all. Can I go pick up Jason at school and maybe go to the supermarket? I appreciate it very much. At 4 o'clock sharp, Mrs. Higgins knocked on the door. I received her with the most sincere hug I had given in months. Emily, you look different. Like more I do not know stronger. I feel stronger, Mrs. Higgins. Come sit. I have a lot to tell you. I told her the whole story from the beginning. Mrs. Higgins listened with growing indignation, interrupting occasionally with exclamations of disbelief. I cannot believe it, his own son. Emily, this is horrible. I know, but I am no longer a victim, Mrs. Higgins. I have a plan. Tell me what you need me to do. I need you to be a witness when they return. I am going to confront them directly, and I need someone to hear everything. Are you sure they can get very aggressive? I am ready for that. I am not afraid anymore. Linda returned with Jason at 5:30. Michael arrived shortly after in an excellent mood because apparently his interview had gone very well. What he did not know was that his good mood was about to evaporate completely. Michael, Linda, can you sit for a moment? I need to speak with you about something important. Is something wrong, Mom? Sit, please. They settled on the living room sofa with that relaxed attitude of those who believe they have everything under control. Jason was about to go up to his room when I stopped him. Jason, you stay too. This includes you. Mrs. Higgins sat in the chair by the window in a position where she could observe the whole family clearly. Michael, I want you to explain something to me. This morning you told me you had gone to a job interview. Can you tell me exactly where that interview was? Well, it was at a logistics company. Why, what is the company called? Midwest Logistics. And who did you speak with? With the human resources manager. What is his name? Michael began to get nervous. I do not remember exactly the name. You do not remember the name of the person who interviewed you for a job. I was nervous, Mom. Sometimes one forgets names when under pressure. I see. And what position did they offer you? They have not offered me anything yet. They said they were going to call me. How strange. Because I called Midwest Logistics an hour ago, and they told me they have not had any interviews scheduled for today. The silence that followed was so heavy it could be felt physically. Michael turned pale and began to stammer an explanation. Maybe I got confused with the company name, or maybe you did not go to any job interview. Linda intervened quickly. Emily, why are you interrogating Michael as if he were a criminal? Because I want to understand exactly what you have been doing behind my back during these months. I do not understand what you are talking about. You don't? Then let me be more specific. I took a sheet of paper out of my bag. This is the quote from the nursing home on the other side of town. The same nursing home you visited last week, Michael. The face of shock on both was better than any confession. Jason got up immediately. I did not know anything about this. Sit down, Jason. You also participated in this. Me, how with your questions about if I felt lonely about the benefits of living with people my age, about your friend Robert, whose grandmother is so happy in a nursing home. But that was because they told me to. Jason, shut up, yelled Linda. No, Linda, let him speak. Let Jason tell me what you told him to do. My grandson was trembling. They told me to ask you about those things because they wanted to know if you would be willing to consider other housing options. And why did you want me to consider other options? Because Jason looked desperately at his parents, looking for a way out that did not exist. Because they said it would be better for you, better for me, or better for them. Michael stood up abruptly. Enough. Yes, it is true. We have been considering options because we believe you need more care than we can give you here. What type of care? Specialized care for people your age. And who decided that I need that care? We as your family have the responsibility to... You have no responsibility over my life. My voice resonated through the living room with a strength I had not used in years. I am a competent adult who can make her own decisions. Linda tried to soften the tone. Emily, you are misunderstanding our intentions. We just wanted... What you wanted was to keep my house and my money while you locked me in a nursing home. The accusation left my mouth like an explosion. "I read your messages, Michael. I know exactly what you are planning." The shock on their faces transformed immediately into panic. Michael started to deny desperately. "I do not know what messages you are talking about." "No, relax, babe. I will put the old lady in the nursing home. That way we will have the house free and her money too." "Does that sound familiar?" Linda stood up like a spring. "You checked our phones. That is a violation of our privacy. You violated my entire life." I screamed with all the strength of my lungs. "You have been manipulating me, lying, planning my future behind my back as if I were a stupid little girl." Mrs. Higgins cleared her throat from her chair. "Excuse me for interrupting, but I think it is important that you know that everything said here has been heard by an impartial witness." Michael looked at her, as if he had just realized her presence. "This is a family matter. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with me, because Emily is my friend of 30 years, and I'm not going to allow you to abuse her." "Nobody is abusing anyone," shouted Linda. "We are just trying to do what is best for everyone." Best for everyone. I walked up to her until we were face to face. "Explain to me how locking me in a nursing home against my will is best for me because you need specialized care. Which ones? Name one." "Just one specialized care that I need and cannot obtain living in my own house." Linda was left speechless. She could not name any specific care because she did not know. Her whole argument was based on my age, not on any real incapacity. "You are misunderstanding everything," she finally murmured. "No, Linda, you all believed you could manipulate me because I am older. You believed you could fool me because I live alone. You believed you could steal my life because you assumed I was weak and stupid." Michael tried one last desperate argument. "Mom, this is getting out of control. We can discuss all this as a family without needing to involve strangers." "Strangers. Mrs. Higgins is more family to me than you have shown to be. She worries about my real well-being, not about keeping my assets. We also worry about you." "Lie. If you worried about me, you would have consulted me before planning my life. You would have asked me what I want, what I need, how I feel. Instead, you treated me like an obstacle that had to be removed." Jason, who had been quiet during the entire confrontation, finally spoke with a broken voice. "Grandma, I did not want to hurt you. They told me it was the best thing for you." I approached my grandson and took his hands. "Jason, honey, you are young, and your parents manipulated you just like me. But now you know the truth. The question is, what are you going to do with it? I do not want you to leave your house. Thank you, my grandson." Michael exploded. "Jason, do not get involved in adult things." "Enough, Michael." My voice cut the air like a whip. "You are not going to keep manipulating this boy. I am his father, and I am your mother. But that did not give you the right to betray me." Linda took Jason by the arm. "Let's go. This conversation is no longer productive." "Where are you going?" I asked with genuine curiosity. "To my mom's house. There we can think clearly." "Perfect, because I have a surprise for you." I took out of my bag the documents I had prepared with Mr. Davis that afternoon. "This is a legal notification that gives you 30 days to vacate my property." The silence that followed was absolute. Even Mrs. Higgins looked surprised by my drastic decision. "Are you kicking us out?" Michael's voice was barely a whisper. "I am freeing you from the burden I represent." "Was that not what you wanted?" Linda started to cry, but her tears seemed as fake to me as everything else she had done for months. "Emily, please reconsider. We can fix this. Fix what Linda?" "Your plan to steal my house, your campaign to make me believe I am crazy, your constant lies about love and family concern. We love you." "No, you want my assets. There is a very big difference." Michael approached me with real tears in his eyes. "Mom, I am your son. You cannot do this to me." "Michael, you stopped being my son the day you decided to betray me instead of loving me. But where are we going to go?" "That is an excellent question. One that you should have considered before planning to send me to a nursing home." I left them standing there picking up the pieces of their destroyed plan while Mrs. Higgins and I went up to my bedroom. For the first time in months, I felt completely free. Emily Miller had returned, and this time she was here to stay. The following days were a whirlwind of activity that filled me with an energy I had not felt in years. After Michael, Linda, and Jason left my house with their suitcases and their faces of total defeat tranquility returned like a fresh breeze after a suffocating storm, Mrs. Higgins stayed with me that first night, insisting that I should not be alone after such an intense confrontation. We made chamomile tea in the kitchen, which finally was completely mine again, and talked until very late about everything that had happened. "Emily, I am so proud of you," Mrs. Higgins told me while stirring her tea. "For months I saw you suffer in silence, and I always wanted to tell you something, but I did not know how to get into family matters. I am very embarrassed that you had to see all that. Surely you thought I had become a very weak woman." "Not at all. I thought you were going through something difficult, but I never imagined it was so grave. The way you handled the whole situation today was incredible. I had never seen you so sure of yourself. It is curious, Mrs. Higgins. For months I felt as if I were losing the woman I had been my whole life, as if age were turning me into someone invisible and irrelevant. Now I understand it was not age, it was manipulation. Do you think they are going to come back? I do not know. But if they do, it will no longer be because they have power over me. It will be because they really want to have an honest relationship, or it will be nothing." The next day, I kept my appointment at the bank to complete all the money transfers, and Miss Rodriguez received me with a conspiratorial smile. "Mrs. Miller, how do you feel after taking all these decisions?" "I feel as if I had recovered my life, Mrs. Rodriguez, I imagine." "Do you need me to explain anything else about the new accounts? I just want to be sure that no one else has access to my funds." "Completely sure. The new accounts are solely in your name, with passwords that only you know. Not even I have access without your specific authorization." "Perfect. One more question. If someone comes asking about my previous accounts, what are you going to tell them?" "That due to bank confidentiality policies, we cannot provide any information about clients without written authorization from them." "Thank you. That gives me much peace of mind." While returning home, I stopped at the flower shop on the corner, the same one where Robert and I bought flowers every Friday for 40 years of marriage. Mrs. Rose, the owner, greeted me with surprise. "Emily, long time no see around here." "Hello, Rose. I want to buy flowers for my house, for a special occasion. Yes, to celebrate that I returned to being myself." Rose looked at me with curiosity but asked no more questions. She helped me choose a beautiful bouquet of yellow roses, Robert's favorites, and some seasonal flowers for the vases in the living room. When I arrived home, silence received me like a warm hug. There was no television at full volume. There was no loud music. There were no voices arguing in the kitchen. Only the golden silence of my own recovered space. I put the flowers in water and sat in my favorite armchair, the same where Robert and I used to watch afternoon shows. For the first time in months, I turned on the television to the channel I wanted to see at a volume that seemed comfortable to me without having to consult with anyone or justify my preferences. The phone rang at 3 p.m. It was Michael. "Mom, can we talk?" "Hello, Michael, tell me." "We are at Linda's mom's house. Her mom is receiving us temporarily, but we need to talk about the situation." "What do you want to talk about?" "About the eviction." "Mom, 30 days is not enough time to find a place to live." "Michael, you guys spent months planning to move me to a nursing home. Surely in all that time you also considered where you were going to live once you were free of my presence. It is not that simple. For me, it is that simple. You wanted me to disappear from your lives. I am giving you exactly what you asked for, but we did not expect it to be this way. In what way did you expect it to be that I would go voluntarily to a nursing home to make things easier for you?" There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Mom, I know we made mistakes. Mistakes, Michael. You planned to steal my life. That is not a mistake. It is a deliberate betrayal. It was never our intention to hurt you. What was your intention then?" Another silence. I waited patiently, giving him time to formulate an honest answer. "We thought that it would be better for everyone if you had more specialized care." "And who decided that I needed that care? We as a family." without consulting me, without including me in the decision, without even asking me how I felt. You are right. We should have consulted you. Michael, the problem is not only that you did not consult me, the problem is that you built a whole plan to manipulate me and make me believe it was my idea. I know. Do you know? Do you really understand what that means? For months you made me doubt my own sanity. You treated me as if I were a burden. You made me feel invisible in my own house. It was not our intention. Stop saying that. Yes, it was your intention. Every comment about my age, every suggestion about nursing homes, every time you spoke about me as if I were not present. All that was completely intentional. Michael's voice broke a little. What do we have to do to fix this? Michael, there are things that cannot be fixed. There are lines that once crossed cannot be erased. Are you telling me you are never going to forgive me? I am telling you that forgiveness does not mean returning to how things were before. It means accepting what happened and deciding how to move forward. And how do you want to move forward? First, I want you to respect the 30 days I gave you. Second, I want you to understand that any future relationship between us is going to be on my terms, not yours. What does that mean? It means that if you want to have a relationship with me, you are going to have to demonstrate with actions, not words, that you respect my autonomy and my dignity. And if I cannot demonstrate that in 30 days, then you will have to live with the consequences of your decisions. After hanging up, I remained seated, reflecting on the conversation. There was a part of me that wanted to believe that Michael could change, that this experience had taught him something important about respect and family. But there was also a wiser part that knew people rarely change as deeply as would be necessary in this case. That night, while I prepared dinner only for myself, a luxury I had forgotten for months, I received an unexpected call. It was Jason. Grandma, can I come see you? Where are you on the corner of your house? My parents do not know I am here. Come, honey. Jason arrived in a few minutes with a face of having been crying. I received him with a strong hug and took him to the kitchen. Do you want to have dinner with me? I am not hungry, Grandma. What is wrong, Jason? I want to apologize to you. You already did, honey. No, not really. I want you to know that I did know that what we were doing was wrong. His confession surprised me. You knew, yes, from the beginning. When my parents told me to ask you those questions about nursing homes and about feeling lonely, I knew it was wrong, but they told me it was for your own good. And you believed them. At first, yes, but then I started to see you differently, sadder, quieter, and I realized it was not for your own good. It was so they could do what they wanted. Why did you not tell me anything? Because I was afraid my parents would get mad at me. And why? Because I did not know how to tell you without hurting you more. I sat next to him and took his hands. Jason, you are 18 years old. It is normal that you did not know how to handle such a complicated situation, but I should have been braver. You were brave when you defended me during the confrontation. Do you think my parents can change? The question broke my heart because it came from a place of pure and innocent hope. I do not know my son. I hope so for you more than for me. And if they do not change, then you will have to decide what type of man you want to be if you want to be like them, or if you want to be better. I want to be better. Then you will be better. But that means sometimes you will have to make difficult decisions, like which ones? Like defending the people you love, even if that means being in disagreement with your own family. Jason remained thoughtful for several minutes. Grandma, can I continue visiting you even if my parents do not want me to? My son, you will always be welcome in my house, but I do not want that to cause problems between you and your parents. There are already problems. Since last night they are arguing constantly. My mom blames my dad for having planned it so badly. My dad blames my mom for having been so obvious. They both blame me for having defended you. Are they punishing you? Not exactly, but they are different with me, as if they did not trust me. I am so sorry, Jason. I did not want you to suffer the consequences of their decisions. It is not your fault, Grandma. They made these decisions. You just defended yourself. The maturity of my grandson surprised me. In a week, he had grown more than he had grown in months. What are you going to do regarding college? I do not know. My parents said we might have to move to another city, depending on where my dad gets a job. And what do you want to do? I want to stay here. I want to finish high school, at my school, and then study at the state university, here in the city. Have you talked about that with them? I tried, but they said the economic situation does not allow us to be selective. And if I helped you— Jason raised his head abruptly. What do you mean? I mean that if you want to stay in the city to finish your studies, you can live here with me. Seriously, completely seriously, but with conditions. Which ones? First, you would have to demonstrate that you are really committed to your studies. Second, you would have to contribute with the housework. Third, you would have to respect my rules and my schedules. And fourth, you would have to be completely honest with me. Always. I accept all the conditions. Do not answer so fast. Think about it well. Living with me would mean defying your parents. It would mean making a very mature decision for your age. I already thought about it, Grandma. I want to stay. And if your parents object, then I will have to show them that I am old enough to make my own decisions. I hugged him tightly, feeling a mix of pride and worry for the difficult decision he was taking. It is okay, but I want you to talk with them first. Explain your decision and give them the opportunity to respond. And if they say no, then we will evaluate the situation. But first, give them the chance to do the right thing. Jason left at 9 at night, promising he would talk with his parents that same night and would call me the next day to tell me how the conversation had gone. I went to sleep that night feeling strangely hopeful. For months, I had lost faith that family could mean something positive. But Jason's honesty and maturity reminded me that there was still goodness in the world, even in the middle of the most painful situations. The next morning, I woke up early and decided to do something I had not done in a long time: walk around the neighborhood. I put on my favorite blue dress, the one Linda had criticized, saying it was too youthful for my age, and went out to enjoy the fresh morning. Mrs. Ellen, the lady from the corner store, greeted me with surprise. "Emily, you look different, like more I do not know, more radiant." "I feel different, Ellen." "Are the family problems resolved?" "The family problems." "Yes, woman, the whole neighborhood knew you were going through something difficult with your son and his wife. It showed on your face. I was surprised. The whole neighborhood knew." "Of course. When a person changes as much as you changed in these months, people notice. Before you were always smiling. You always had time to chat. Lately you seemed, I do not know, like scared. I did not know it was so obvious. For those of us who love you, yes, it was obvious. But we also knew that when you were ready, you would find the way to resolve things. You have always been a very strong woman." Her words filled me with a warmth I had not felt in a long time. For months I had felt invisible, irrelevant. Knowing that people who really knew me had noticed my suffering and had trusted in my capacity to overcome it gave me a completely new perspective on my place in the world. Thank you, Ellen. You do not know how important it is to hear that. Is everything resolved then? Let's say I am in the process of resolving it, but yes, I feel much better. The phone was ringing when I returned home. It was Jason, and his voice sounded trembling. "Grandma, I talked with my parents. How did it go?" "Bad. Very bad. They got very angry when I told them I wanted to stay with you. What did they tell you? That you are manipulating me just like you say they manipulated you? That you are using money to buy my loyalty? That you are trying to separate me from my family? And what did you answer them? I told them it was not true. That you had never promised me money nor pressured me for anything. That you simply offered me a place to live if I wanted to finish my studies here. And how did they react? My mom started to cry and said I was abandoning her. My dad said if I stayed with you, I should never look for them again. Jason, that is very hard. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, Grandma, but I am scared. It is normal to be scared. You are making a very big decision for your age. Do you think I'm doing the right thing? I think you are doing what seems right to you, and that is the most important thing. Is the guest room still available? It is still available. When do you want to move? Can I go this afternoon? I already packed my things. Of course, I'm going to prepare the room for you. That afternoon, while Jason arranged his few belongings in the room that had been my sewing studio, I reflected on the unexpected turns my life had taken. A week before, I was an older woman being manipulated by her own family. Now I was an independent woman who had recovered her dignity and who had the opportunity to positively influence her grandson's life. Grandma Jason told me while we had dinner together, "Thanks for giving me this opportunity. Thanks to you for reminding me that there is still goodness in the world." Do you think my parents are going to change their minds? I do not know, honey. But if they do, it will be because they really want to have an honest relationship with you, not because they want to control you. And if they do not change their minds, do you think I did right in staying, Jason? Sometimes in life one has to choose between being comfortable and being honest. You chose to be honest. That is always the right thing. That night, for the first time in months, I went to sleep feeling that my house was becoming a home again. It was not the home I had imagined when Robert was alive, but it was a home full of respect, honesty, and genuine affection. Emily Miller had learned that real family is not defined by blood, but by love and mutual respect. And with that lesson, my new life truly began. 6 months after that day that changed my life forever, I wake up every morning with a sensation I had forgotten completely: peace. True peace that comes from knowing you are exactly where you need to be, being exactly who you are, without masks or apologies. My morning routine has become a sacred ritual. I get up at 6. I prepare coffee in the kitchen, which smells like cinnamon and vanilla again, not the artificial perfumes Linda bought. I sit at the dining table where Robert and I ate breakfast for 40 years and observe how the sun enters through the window facing the garden, illuminating the roses I have returned to caring for with my own hands. Jason comes down at 7, always punctual, always with a genuine smile that reminds me goodness still exists in this world. We eat breakfast together while he tells me about his classes in high school, about his plans for university, about the books he is reading. It is a real conversation, not the forced and superficial exchange I used to have with Michael and Linda. "Grandma, do you know what I learned yesterday in my philosophy class? Tell me, honey, that dignity is not something others can give you or take away. It is something you already have, and that only you can decide to defend or surrender." His words go straight to my heart. This 18-year-old boy understands things his father at 45 never understood. And you, what do you think of that idea, that it explains perfectly what happened with you? My parents thought they could take away your dignity, but they were wrong. You never lost it. You only stopped defending it for a while. You are very wise for your age, Jason. I learned from the best teacher. Weekends are especially precious. Jason and I have developed our own traditions. Saturday mornings we go together to the local farmers market, where I have started to know the merchants again, where I can choose my own fruits and vegetables without anyone telling me I am spending too much or buying unnecessary things. Sundays after Jason goes to church, a completely personal decision that I respect deeply. I stay home organizing the photographs I had kept away for months to avoid Linda's criticisms about living in the past. Now I understand that remembering is not living in the past, it is honoring the path that brought you to where you are. Mrs. Higgins comes to visit me every Wednesday afternoon. We sit in the garden, drink tea, and chat about everything and nothing. She tells me the neighborhood gossip I tell her about Jason's progress in school. Sometimes we simply stay in silence, enjoying the company, without needing to fill every moment with words. Emily told me last week, "Do you ever regret having made the decisions you made?" Never. For the first time in months, I feel I am living my own life, instead of the life others designed for me. And if Michael returns, asking for forgiveness, if he returns with genuine forgiveness and a real understanding of what he did, I will listen to him, too. But I am not going to pretend nothing happened just to maintain family peace. Michael has called me 3 times in these 6 months. The first time 2 weeks after they left to tell me they had found a small apartment in a working-class area and that they were having a very hard time financially. He expected, I suppose, that I would feel guilty and offer them financial help. When I did not, he hung up annoyed. The second call was in December to invite me to spend Christmas with them in their new apartment. "So you can know where we live," he said, as if I had some responsibility to validate his new circumstances. I thanked him for the invitation and explained that Jason and I had our own Christmas plans. The third call was a month ago. His voice sounded different, humbler, more broken. He told me that Linda had returned to her mother's because the economic situation had become unsustainable, and that he was living alone, working at a warehouse to pay the rent. Mom, I think I made the biggest mistake of my life. What mistake, Michael? Having lost you to follow Linda's plans. You did not lose me for following Linda's plans. You lost me for not defending me when I needed it most. Is there any way to fix this? The way to fix this is for you to really understand what you did and work to become a different person, not to recover my house or my money, to recover your own dignity. How do I do that, Michael? I cannot teach you to be a good man. That is something you have to learn by yourself. We have not spoken again since then, but I know he is there somewhere in the city, dealing with the consequences of his decisions. A part of me, the part that was his mother for 45 years, hopes he learns and grows from this experience. Another part of me, the part that learned to protect herself, knows that some wounds are too deep to heal completely. Jason maintains occasional contact with his father. He tells me Michael asks about me in every conversation, that he says he misses me, that he regrets what happened. But he also tells me his father continues blaming Linda for having been the true mastermind of the whole plan without completely assuming his own responsibility in what happened. What do you think about that, honey? That my dad still does not understand that he chose to follow those plans? No one forced him. Do you miss him? I miss the dad I thought he was. I do not miss the man he turned out to be. Yesterday, while I watered the roses in the garden, the same roses Robert and I planted together 20 years ago, I started thinking about everything that has changed in my life. Not only the obvious, the fact that I live alone with my grandson instead of being locked in a nursing home, but the deeper things. I have learned that loneliness and being alone are two completely different things. For months, I lived surrounded by family, but I felt terribly lonely. Now I live with fewer people, but I feel more accompanied than ever. I have learned that true love respects, it does not control. That real family is defined by actions, not by blood. That dignity is a decision you take every day, not a gift you expect to receive from others. I have learned that it is never too late to defend yourself, to change the course of your life, to choose peace over chaos and respect over comfort. This morning, while I prepared coffee, Jason came down earlier than usual. Grandma, can I ask you something? Of course, honey. Are you happy? The question took me by surprise. It had been so long since anyone asked me about my happiness that I had to think about the answer. Yes, Jason, I am happy. Not in the way I expected to be happy at 72 years old, but I am genuinely happy. I am very glad to hear you say that. And you? Are you happy here with me? Happier than I have been in a long time. Here I can be myself without having to pretend or hide what I feel. We stayed a moment in silence, enjoying the coffee and the morning sun entering through the window. Grandma, do you know what my favorite part of living here with you is? Tell me. The silence. Not the silence of sadness or fear, like the one at home when my parents planned things in secret. The silence of peace. The silence that comes when you no longer have to defend yourself from people who supposedly love you. His words were the perfect confirmation of something I have been feeling but had not managed to express. This silence that now fills my house is not empty. It is full of recovered dignity, of right decisions, of genuine love. Sometimes, the most beautiful silence is the one you choose when you decide to stop justifying yourself before those who are never going to understand you. Sometimes the deepest peace is the one you find when you stop chasing the love of those who are never going to value you as you deserve. Jason is right. The greatest gift of all this was not recovering my house or my money. It was recovering the silence that comes with inner peace, the silence that arrives when you finally decide that your own approval is more important than the approval of any other person. And in this silence, for the first time in many years, I have found myself completely again. We are curious to know how far this story reached. Where are you watching from? Comment below.